Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So, we are checking out actually our best microphone and our best computer for the first time in a long time. And hoping that this comes through okay.
Yeah, because I don't like redoing the videos, but we can. But hopefully this first go-around is going to work great.
Yeah, there's a couple of changes, and we're just hoping that's smooth. This microphone, the problem is it's too good. And it picks up a lot of hum that you don't even notice.
Yeah.
And maybe I shouldn't even say that, because now everybody's going, I hear the hum, boy, here's the hum, I can't hear you.
It's like saying, don't look down.
Don't look down, guys, don't look down. So, I want to thank everybody for being part of the family. Thank you for subscribing. Please do double check if you are subscribed to both channels, as we did start to post to Evolutionary again, first time in quite a while, as it had 2 strikes. And one of them's been removed. The other one should be removed in 5 days, hopefully. And here also, thank you for the Patreons, because we couldn't do it without your support on Patreon in the day and age of demonization.
Yes, thank you so much.
Here we go again. National Weather Service issues multi-state tornado warnings for U.S. Midwest. And actually, one of our family members, Andrew, was telling me he saw a funnel cloud over Omaha.
Wow.
And you do have twisters touch down in Nebraska and Iowa already. This is after Kentucky, Illinois, Arkansas, and other U.S. states are still dealing with the death and destruction that came about from the weekend's twisters. So very, very scary situation. Tornado, that's nothing to take lightly. Having been in a couple of scary situations myself with them.
Yeah, nothing to mess with at all. If you have a safe place to go, please go there.
Yeah, so definitely be prepared. Crazy winds out there. Absolute crazy. Reports of 70 mile an hour plus winds. I saw one headline that was talking about, perhaps even 100 mile an hour gusts at some places. And can we say a little artificial flavoring?
Oh, just a wee bit.
And here we have a super typhoon, basically the equivalent of a Category 5 rapid development, rapid intensification heading for the Philippines. So let's send our prayers to that situation. Severe thunderstorms hit the Eastern Cape. This is down in South Africa, claiming 6 lives, damaging over 1,000 homes. And, it just keeps going on and on and on. If we look over to South Sudan, over 835,000 people have been affected by floods. And of course, this is really hitting the food supply again. This is destroying crops as well as destroying homes and destroying livelihoods. Just think about what we have seen across the globe since really it just seems like everything went bonkers in August of 2017 with that first eclipse. So the majority of U.S. Senate passes $768 billion defense spending bill. Every single year, it's the biggest, spending budget ever.
Right around Christmas. Good for them.
Well, we might not know, or maybe we do know who number 2 works for.
I know, right?
But I think we got an idea of who Congress works for.
Yes, we sure do.
And it ain't you and I.
No. We're more like the ones who it all comes off our back, basically.
So the budget earmarks $7.1 billion for operations in the Indo-Pacific region with initiatives to address challenges from China. And it also includes $4 billion for European Deterrence Initiative and $300 million for security aid for Ukraine. And, speaking about that, there's all sorts of, ominous signs going on as far as movement, military movement. Many people are watching nowadays, not just, theorists of those conspiracies, but just average people now paying attention to people like Monkeyworks and other channels that are watching military movement. And when we were making a video, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday's video. all of a sudden, something most definitely military flying low went over so
It
fast.
was yesterday. I didn't go back and see if you could actually hear it in the video, but it was super loud, super low, and enough to get our attention, and I imagine you guys heard it too.
So, when they call something like the infrastructure bill that was signed last month, it's not all just about that. As we were saying, sometimes you find things in there that have nothing to do with infrastructure. And, some things are just kind of strange. Like, there's one here for destroying roads and bridges. Not building them, destroying them. What? Yeah. It's called the Reconnecting Communities Pilot Program.
Wow.
Which provides funding to remove highways or any transportation facility that creates a barrier to community connectivity. Okay,
there's some underwriting there.
It sounds like it's a little WOKE.
Yeah.
And they got a travel tax pilot program in there too. Section 13002 provides for the establishment of a pilot program to charge per mile user fees for passenger cars and commercial trucks.
Well, let's not let anyone get anywhere that they need to go without paying for it.
So is this going to be federal toll booths, or is this going to be a federal tax on gas? Is this going to be, how are they going to do this and, punish you for driving?
Mm-hmm. Right.
The federal toll booth thing comes to mind, and then I start thinking about, what if they are trying to stop travel from state to state, and all of a sudden there's toll booths up, then just man the toll booth.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Sorry, let me check, see if you have the right PASS. Oh no, you cannot enter or leave your state. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Anti-drunk driving technology, and there's a federal weed stash bill. Yes. This is entitled Report on Mary Juana.
Yeah.
Research mandates a report detailing methods and recommendations for establishing a national clearinghouse to collect and distribute samples and strains of you-know-what for scientific research. Okay.
All in the name of science.
Well, it's like it says in the article, just do a Google search and you should be able to cover that.
I think so, yeah.
And we have this little bird spotted over in Kansas. And, what's interesting about this is Google Earth. This looks kind of like a stealth bomber, but you got to wonder, it looks a little different to me too. And then what's up with that glow? Is it just light refraction? As everything gets blamed on light refraction? Is it part of the stealth technology, or is there some sort of energy field around it?
Yeah, I know. It looks almost like, how they have to mimic everything, like, live entities have an aura. Well, this isn't really a live entity, but it's almost like they've given it its own aura.
And this is not too far off a beaten track. As you can see, this is, basically around the corner of Snelster? What was it? Snelster Road and Becker Road. And if we go farther out to give you an idea of where it is, you could see Higginsville. Now this is like actually this might be in Missouri, but it's in right near the Missouri-Kansas border there. It's not too far away from people. I would think people would be able to get a view of that with some binoculars, but of course Google Earth does a pretty good job.
Yes.
So, military situation in the Black Sea region, December 16th. And we see anti-tank units of the Ukrainian army launched exercises on the border with Crimea. On December 14th, even negotiations between Macron and Putin, French frigate, the Avignon, entered the Black Sea, and it was tailed as well. December 15th, Boeing RC-135V reconnaissance aircraft of the U.S. Air Force with the code sign Homer 39 was spotted along the Krasnodar region and Crimean border. December 14th, strategic reconnaissance aircraft Boeing RC-135U combat scent was spotted over the Crimean border. And also on the 14th, the Bombardier Challenger 650 Artemis took off from the Romanian Constanta entered the airspace of Georgia. And then on the 14th, the British reconnaissance aircraft Boeing RC-135E spotted over the Crimean border. So lots and lots of activity. And here you see, breaking from Intel sky, Israeli airstrike on Syria, as we expected for 4 hours ago. Syrian air defenses are engaging hostile targets over Damascus as we speak. And we're wondering if there will be a strike on Iran. Here we see a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, the Harry S. Truman, transit into the Mediterranean Sea through the Strait of Gibraltar. There's other U.S. warships and a Norwegian warship with it as well. So this is, heading into the Mediterranean. Is it going to be positioned, within range of getting, planes up in the air to the Black Sea region? You got to wonder. We have a whole bunch of stuff leaving San Diego Harbor. You have the USS Connecticut, which is a Seawolf class nuclear submarine, which is leaving the USS Anchorage, and that's an amphibious transport dock, and that's leaving as well. USS Oakland, it's a combat ship leaving, and USS Mustin, guided missile destroyer. They're all leaving San Diego as of today. And we have the U.S. Navy firing a laser weapon in the Mideast amid drone boat threat. Yeah, they're putting the lasers into action.
Yes, and taking pictures and telling us all about it.
Yeah, it's going to be very different from what we've seen in the past. One wrong move. Tehran Times reveals Iran's targets in Israel. So this is showing all the, targets they would strike if they are struck. And it would be different this time. You could just feel that it's different, because usually Israel strikes and nobody ever does anything, pretty much. They'll, send a few token rockets back that don't do anything, typically, compared to what Israel does. But this feels very different. And Sky News, we see here a full invasion by Russia could trigger WW#3, warns the government minister in Kiev, as the buildup continues. And then we have as many as 50K military personnel are on the verge of dismissal. Some have been dismissed, others, are pending. And it's all about those dates for men. And by the way, number 46's approval rating that they're giving us, which is probably vastly higher than the real number, is at all-time lows, compared to anybody pretty much now. And so an undersea volcano nearly sidelined this Navy ship. And how did it do it? It's just basically the pumice, the rock that gets shot out. The pumice is kind of light and airy, and so it was actually getting caught inside it as it was going through the area. Pumice can float, and you could have these rafts of pumice rock that can drift in the ocean for months and all. And so they encountered this. This was over by Okinawa, and it began clogging strainers on the ship's sea chest, which bring in seawater for firefighting, equipment cooling, and other needs. And some of the debris was so small it passed through the strainers and entered critical propulsion systems. And over time, the pumice ingestion plagued virtually the entire engineering plant, and clogs caused high temperatures in both port and starboard coolers. So, it was interesting, because I thought they were going to talk about that ship that hit that sub, that hit. When I first saw the headline, I thought, I wonder if it's about the sub that hit something mysterious. And then we picked up that it was, a USO, non-human controlled.
Right.
But still no official explanation on that one so far. So they released 1,500 confidential documents relating to the JFK assassination now. And, that gets me thinking. So you're talking, well over 50, heading towards 60 years later. And, think about it. So far after the fact, we're going to be looking at something similar when it comes to documentation about what's being done with the plague upon the land, we're going to have to wait that long, that far after the fact. That is just ridiculous. Yeah, how could the people of the world accept something like that?
Right. How many of us are actually going to be here to physically talk about that?
And that's the point.
Yep.
That's the, it's going to be ancient history. So, who are you going to yell at?
So what do you got to do in this case? Actually, to know for sure what they're doing, just look to the past. I mean, we've had everything right all along. And it's just one more thing.
It's very true. And as we've said, it's just insane to think that it's allowed by the people of the globe. Because, really we got to speak up until we become a drowning tidal wave of sound, so to speak, that drowns out everything else around it. Global seafood supply could shrink if we don't act now, a new study says. One of the things a lot of people avoid is farm fish if you are eating seafood. And, personally, I would avoid anything in the Pacific, just because of Fukushima. It's really a sad condition. But just like with the sad conditions of other types of farms where chickens are basically living their entire lives in a 1 square foot space, their consciousness is important. If you're going to be consuming the chicken, you're going to be consuming their consciousness. Think about this again. If they're living lives of misery, sadness, and depression, what are you going to get from that? We think in terms of, protein, carbs, and fats, things like that, essential aminos. But what about the energetic exchange where, something that's lived a life free range and also not eating all these toxins, hormones. It's common to be giving antibiotics to animals, which then is passed on to you. It's even common to give certain growth hormones, which are known to cause the big C, and then you consume them.
Yeah, I mean, you can look right on there on so many packages, and, there's that cancer-causing formula right there on the front.
California's population loss accelerated during pandemic. Decrease in people moving to the Golden State was particularly severe in the San Francisco area, where new arrivals fell 45%. Actually, it seems like whenever we talk to family members in California, the vast majority of them are like planning an escape to either another state or somewhere tiny and remote.
Yeah.
One of the two. So California, as we know, once it was the destination, and it's not the case. But then again, so much of the reason why it's not the case is geopolitical. It's nothing to do, even with really the Earth changes. And more hidden water reserves discovered on Mars.
Oh, really? Who'd have ever thunk?
Yeah. This is coming out constantly, so we keep getting a changing picture. And again, as we've said so many times for those guys that have been with us for a long time, history is written by the victors. And it is a revisionist history. One of the things they don't want you to know, but it's coming out now in these times, is that life is abundant out there. Life exists, and our view of other planets is not necessarily the reality. I shared with you the time I watched, and the moon's face, instead of being pockmarked and impact craters, the typical moon face that we're so used to seeing, it went totally blank. And I was so grateful somebody else was there to see it too, because otherwise I would have been worried about my vision. But no, it wasn't the case. Again, same thing with this. And Mars, the Earth could end up looking like Mars if the people in charge stay in charge. And they give us these token bills. Oh, we're going to do great things to start restoring the planet. But it's never about really restoring the planet. It's just about restoring their checkbooks, their bank accounts. Just making sure that the power stays where it is because they like it that way. They really don't care. And if we think about the fact that, well, who's at the top? Well, if they're really at the top of that pinnacle are beings that are not from here and actually came here from Mars after doing to Mars what they did to their own original planet, and now they're in the process of doing to Earth. And did you know that there was a report by Oppenheimer Einstein, the famous Robert Oppenheimer, who gave us, the BOMB, the big thing, right? And who made that famous statement too, where he alluded to the fact that he was well aware that NUKESs were used in ancient times in ancient wars. And then Einstein, gave us so many different scientific laws. Well, there was a report out there dated June 1947 that states that the presence of unidentified spaceships is accepted by the military as a fact back in 1947. Mm-hmm. So these are two top brains out there, very, very well-known, influential people saying, yeah, the military knows they're spacecraft and they're not ours. They're not from here. And, it's just right out there. But it's really obvious when you start studying our hidden history. It's very obvious. This has not been hidden when it comes to the indigenous people of the world. And that's why the indigenous people of the world have found themselves under assault. They also understand, too, the importance of connecting to nature. And we've been totally cut off from Mother Nature. And that's also helped them control our lifespan.
Very, very true. One of the most important things you can do for your health is ground with the earth. Stand on the earth with your bare feet for a few minutes a day. And if you go look at the studies, just the little bit of studies that have been done to it, it lowers blood pressure, it helps stabilize your mood, it does all kinds of things for you, which is really, really critical. And they've cut us off so much that even the very shoes that we wear separate us from our mother, and it only takes one thin layer of rubber to be separated from mom. But definitely make an effort to stand on that ground, get your hands in dirt for just a little while. It really does make a difference in your health.
Absolutely, and we did get 2 messages from the Galactics that we will be sharing probably tomorrow. And one of them was that, just to give you a quick briefing, they could see the stress levels of the planets going way, way up. People are starting to get hit with a feeling of there is an impending war coming. They feel it now, and it's really, really hitting people hard. And we are seeing it with people that we're talking to on a daily basis. And they were, again, recommending you got to root, you got to ground, you got to practice things like yoga, Qigong, Tai Chi, meditation, do the mantras. You have to de-stress yourself because, just think about, it's been so long, thankfully, and hopefully, we don't have to go through another horrible thing like we did in World War I or II, and this would be worse in many ways, albeit, we don't know how long the duration would be and exactly what it would look like. It's kind of crazy to comprehend what it would look like, really, with the technology that even they show us, not let alone the technology that's behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. But think about the stress of going through just an average day, even if you weren't right on the battlefront. But can you imagine the stress of being in, a Poland, for instance, a France that was occupied, UK, or Germany? It's Russia. Russia went through, horrors. And what do we have going on over here? Everybody worked in manufacturing the weapons of war. You had women manning machinery back in an age where women didn't commonly work like they do now. So everything was about manufacturing these weapons of destruction, and everything was focused on destruction. And the difference is now the ascension process is making it so that we have to get rid of certain emotions. We have to get rid of certain things that are holding us back that no longer serve us. So in many ways, it would be even more torturous today spiritually.
And what's really sad even back then is that people were helping to build these things for destruction, but and everybody always wants to be proud of themselves for something, but they made them feel good about it through manipulation.
Yeah, exactly. And then the bomb drops and another innocent child dies.
Right.
Another person that has nothing to do with anything is killed. And there was an article that I didn't get to share with you guys yesterday, but it was talking about war crimes that have been perpetrated by the U.S. and China was calling out the U.S. for war crimes. Talking about like these drone strikes, for instance, that took out absolutely innocent people, like wedding parties. And, just not even an official sorry, or, even if you got an official sorry, it doesn't bring people back.
Right, no.
That had nothing to do with any of it. Mm-hmm. And in fact, when you get down to it, the people that actually have things to do with all this and how we head off to war is such a tiny portion of the population. But again, it's not the kings and queens that usually die on the battlefield. It's just the pawns, for the most part. And we have to recognize that. And what's going to happen, the turning point here eventually is that if they do get their war and they are intent on it, it will get to the point where people will wake up that this is complete B period S period and just refuse, just walk away. When we were in Hattiesburg, we were looking into the history. I was looking into the history and I saw that there was an awful lot of Confederate soldiers and others too, even some Union soldiers and lots of slaves that went and they just hid in the swamps. They said, this is crazy. This is a rich man's war. This is a geopolitical going on. It's not what they're portraying. And they just basically hid and worked together in the swamps to support each other until the war was over, because they didn't want to have anything to do with it. We talked about Yeshua being an Essene, and the Essenes also, they tried to live as much outside the system as they could. They were communal, and they lived outside the system as much as possible, interacting with the system as little as possible.
Yeah, they most definitely knew a thing or two about consciousness, and that's the information that we would like to retrieve more of and bring to you guys, because everything we have right now has been given to us by the controllers, honestly, and that's all we really have to go by to expand our consciousness. And believe me, they're going to make sure they keep certain lock and keys on consciousness.
Yeah, they'll use terms like patriotic. I mean, that's how they sell it to you. We could see, we've seen all the propaganda, and then 46 made a statement about getting a certain thing as being patriotic. It's like, there you go. It's a sales job again. It's nothing but sales.
Tag pride to it.
Yeah, it's all about, utilizing people's emotions, getting to them through utilizing any sort of emotion they can utilize to use it for their own good and benefit, for, again, their own progress and their own maintaining power and control.
Very much so. And unfortunately, so many of us are empaths and we function on all these emotions. But again, they know that and they play it very well.
Yeah, I mean, every time I just look at any of them, it's constantly going through my head. They're liars, they're evil. There's no other word for it. And they gotta go. They need to be, placed on the heap of outdated things, and something that's well past its prime.
Very much so.
Yes. So thank you guys as always for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Thanks for checking out Medicinal Foods. Link at the top of the page. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.